Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? I might wait a second here for people to start joining. I would like to actually, as soon as people start joining in, I'm going to have to assign some moderators because I get the feeling that we may have a repeat of what happened last time, where a million bots descended in on the chat all at once, and it was very, very hard to control. So, happy Wednesday. I'm sorry, today's Thursday. This week has just been crazy, absolutely insane. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. Hi, Brandon. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I mean, you guys, this has been absolutely nuts. I believe Tuesday there was a Trump rally in Tampa, which is in my state of Florida. And I believe that it was one of the first times that Q, as many of you know, the QAnon phenomenon hit the mainstream. So this is really very interesting. A few things I really need to address. First of all, full disclosure here, I'm not 100% sold on Q. Okay. I just really want to put that out there. We've seen this kind of organized, into what seems like some kind of organized intelligence that's very clandestine. Its sources are very, kind of muddy, and there's no real transparency there. And we've seen how it can sometimes, herd people in a certain direction. So everybody needs to put their discernment goggles on, and just understand that the information coming out, whether you believe that Q is connected to the president or not, the important thing here is that this huge treasure trove of information is in fact getting out to people. And that's really what counts here, folks. That's what really matters. It doesn't matter to me anymore. If you were to ask me, what's the source of Q? Is Q legitimate? I don't have those answers for you. I think only a few people know those answers. However, I feel that that's irrelevant. The source and origin of QAnon, it may really serve to be irrelevant at this point because it's taken on a life of its own. I believe they're up to 350 million people worldwide from zero in just, I believe it's been about 9 months since Q really, hit the digital world. So this is really very intense. And the fact of the matter is, it has taken on this cult-like movement, okay, where people elevate Q and the Q posts to this godlike status. And I don't think that that's helpful. I don't think that that is the way that it was originally intended from the source. But this is something people have to understand, is that everybody is going to internalize and externalize what Q is, on an individual basis. So there are some people that are taking in this information and they're taking it to an extreme, and they're sort of blinded by their own partisanship. It can become very right wing, very extreme, very Republican. There are the people that feel that way about it, and then there are the people that follow Q that are completely awake and aware to the bipartisan lie of it all, and really are just into it because of the blatant exposure that's happening here. It's really hard not to see, the connections that have been made, and the correlations are just undeniable. So another thing too, I woke up this morning to my Twitter feed. It was brought to my attention that a far left news outlet known as rightwingwatch.org. I mean, if you could even call them a news outlet, it's pretty ridiculous. It looks like the majority of their energy is spent smearing people on the right, or otherwise people that they perceive as being far right. And so what this website did was they published this piece specifically in reference to a show that I did, I believe it was last week, where I hosted the one and only Liz Crokin. Now, Liz Crokin, you can refer to the interview that she gave to me. She is a lead investigative journalist, and she has covered so much of the exposure on Pedogate since day one. She's taken all kinds of losses, financially and jobs and friends. And so this is, that's honestly what got me to sort of pay attention, because I know that the more waves you make and the more over the target that you are, the more that you'll lose, the more that you'll be attacked. So I think you can judge somebody based on what they're giving up, what they're sacrificing, and sort of, the harder the road, the higher the calling. So I knew that, she was working really hard to get this information out. Truth is, she's never been challenged on a story. Typically, when a journalist just goes out and starts publishing all kinds of garbage and creating false narratives and slandering people, you run the risk of getting sued. She's never been sued. She's never been challenged on the story. So I really wanted to have her on the show. And what we did, and it didn't take up the entirety of the show. We only talked about it for a little bit of it, was this theory, keyword theory, that the identity of QAnon is actually John F. Kennedy Jr. Now, this rightwingwatch.org published this story and took what we said completely out of context. They also took a clip from my video and posted it onto their YouTube channel. And it was a 4-minute clip where they completely leave out the fact that Liz and I were kind of laughing about it and indulged it as being our favorite quote unquote fantasy, which obviously indicates that we're not presenting this as fact. We're simply entertaining a possible theory here. And at no point did we present it as fact, because the truth is, at this point, we don't have verifiable, facts or proof to be able to substantiate that theory. It's just an interesting, entertaining theory. Okay, so it is very interesting that what they wanted to do, this right wing watch, which is this far left media outlet, they wanted to kind of take what we said out of context and use her and me as a means to kind of sort of delegitimize or, make a mockery of that theory in particular. People can find us and hold of us. So thanks for that, you guys. These people are dumb. I guess they don't know how media works. So, and they referred to me as an online psychic. So here's the thing. So it's like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I do, that is like part of what I do. Okay, so I have my psychic intuitive readings. I have my tarot readings. That's separate from my other work. You know what I mean? They published the link to my website where I can be found to do my readings. But their tone that they used, it was kind of a way for them to make me look stupid and to discredit her for even talking to me, because they wanted to label me as an online psychic. But here's the thing, is that to the sleeping mind, or to the narrow mind, or to the average normie, as we call them, psychic phenomenon is a lie, it's a joke, it's not real, it's fantasy, fairy tales. That's not the case at all. As a matter of fact, the military-industrial complex and the government have taken so much interest in the phenomenon of human psychic abilities that they have funneled endless spending into the study, the honing, and the channeling of human psychic abilities. And these are things that they don't tell you about, okay? They keep these things secret for a reason, because they don't want you to know how powerful human psychic abilities really are. So I'm going to stick to my guns. I know it might sound weird to a lot of people, oh, the psychic thing, whatever, but that's just because a lot of people don't understand how that works and how common it really is. Everybody that I talk to has experiences with psychic phenomenon. This isn't strange. It only seems strange to people that are stupid and don't get it and don't want to get it because they're scared, or, just they feel incapable, they feel disempowered, whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is that your government is hiding from you the fact that the military has entire operations dedicated to scouting out psychic talent within the ranks, within the population, and they even utilize various mechanics of the psychic network and how it works in the human body, and also in the system, the collective. They utilize these mechanics into all of their various programs that reach all of us on a daily basis. MK Ultra, for example, you think that they don't know how the human body works, the energetic system in the body. They utilize all of this stuff. So really the joke is on the people that are laughing about psychic phenomenon, and they're like, oh my gosh, like she's instantly discredited because she calls herself a psychic. Well, really seriously, the joke is on you. I've always been ahead of the curve, always, my whole life. I've always felt things coming before they come. I can sense trends before they're on the horizon. So I'm going to stick to my guns. And in a few short years, when all of it comes to light, I'm going to be like, I told you so. So let me take a second here. Oh, thank you, Angel, for moderating for me. And you're absolutely right, remote viewing. One of the biggest known projects funded by the US government, namely the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA, is known as the Stargate Project, which was, I think it was 1978 it began. And it began as a bunch of sort of subsets of one big umbrella project that was later sort of packaged up and known as the Stargate Project. And this is where they put a lot of time and energy into studying the phenomenon of remote viewing, among other things as well. But the official report on this, or if you were to look it up online, it will say that in 1995 it was declassified, and they were like, oh, it was just such a waste of time. We didn't find anything. And years later, they adapted the whole thing, the whole project, into a really bad Hollywood movie known as The Men Who Stare at Goats. So I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. I've seen it. It is a terrible movie. The acting is really bad. I mean, it's starring soulless dregs like George Clooney, for Christ's sake. I mean, these people are absolutely just jokes. They're walking parodies of themselves. So, and that's just one example. That's just one example of the resources that they put into these projects, and how they really do take a great interest in human psychic phenomenon. So, they try to make us look stupid, but really we just know more than the average person. Sorry. So a couple other things. Okay, so like I said, Q went mainstream. The Trump rally in Tampa was a huge success, huge turnout. Q was all over the place. It's really very exciting. I haven't even been, there are people that have put so much time and energy into decoding the Q posts, and they've followed it to a T. They stay up and they wait for the drops. That hasn't been me. I've kind of been on the outside of this, looking in, trying to see all angles of it, because I am skeptical. I have been wary of it. But from where I'm standing right now, like I said, I do feel that the source, the original source, we can consider it as being somewhat irrelevant at this point, because the exposure is taking place. The right thing to do from here on out moving forward is to certainly not dismiss Q in any way, because the mainstream media is already picking it up and putting a lot of energy into calling it a far right conspiracy theory, cult, and what have you. And I'm not going to argue and say that there are not pockets of that going on. Surely there are pockets of that going on. But for, there's even more people that see it for more of an exposure campaign, more of a kind of usurping campaign, where the shadow government that has been in control for so many years is now finally being exposed. And the best part of this is that the average person, just the regular individual with a computer and with a brain is now able to do some of their own research and make some of these judgment calls for themselves. To me, that's Q serving its purpose. You know what I mean? You don't have to buy into it. Yeah, I don't have a Q t-shirt, a Q hat. I don't have anything Q related. I certainly haven't drank the Kool-Aid or anything like that, but I will give credit where credit is due. And there are some amazing correlations that have taken place that are really quite undeniable. So I don't want anybody to dismiss Q. You don't have to be a Republican. You don't have to be in the middle or on the left. You know, you don't have to hate it just because they tell you to hate it. Just listen for 5 minutes and try to understand that this is a team effort. You know, I came under some criticism because, you know, people think, you know, they like to sort of project and say, oh, well, you think that Q is going to save the world or Trump is going to save the world. And, you know, I don't know how many times I have to say it, that I don't believe that Trump is capable of saving everybody. I don't believe that QAnon, this clandestine digital movement, is going to save the world. No. But what has happened is that people have been given an instrument. They've been given tools and means with which to facilitate what we want to see happen in our country, as well as internationally. QAnon is way past just the United States. This is international because these rings are international. The shadow government has its tentacles on every single continent on the face of the earth. And, you know, we're kidding ourselves if we think that this is quarantines just to the US. It's not. And this movement is huge. It's larger than life, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Hence the absolute shit show that is mainstream media in trying to, you know, quarantine this and cover this up. I mean, you know, a popular belief is that QAnon is a LARP, or, you know, this just silly conspiracy theory, but they're putting a lot of energy into trying to discredit it. And in my experience, if something has no weight, you don't give it time. You don't let it see the light of day. You just sort of, you know, whatever, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's telling. It's like basic psychology, really. So if you were to sort of take a step back and look at what's actually happening, and you see these people that have been kind of pigeonholed in their respective silos. I mean, we have the left, we have the right, we have everybody in between. Everybody has their individual set of beliefs, you know, and we can see these clashes taking place. It's just really interesting. This is an amazing time to be alive. It's unbelievable. And I would like to congratulate everybody that is involved with Q and has worked really hard and followed it very closely over the past 9 months. I mean, the progress that you guys have made is just incredible. I mean, the whole world is watching right now. And I would like, you know, in the future, the near future, hopefully, I would like to host a few people that have done some really great work following the Q posts and trying to decode it and bring it to all of you guys. So, and one silly argument, and I have to say, it's just such a silly argument made in, you know, to contest Q, is that Q is a distraction. Okay. My question is, what is Q distracting us from? Because as far as I can see, the same people that are working really hard, busting their asses, taking so many risks, endangering themselves, endangering their loved ones, trying to get the exposure of the child trafficking and the pedophilia in high places, they work in tandem with a lot of the Q people. So these two missions are running parallel to each other. So as the shadow government is exposed over here, the exposure of the pedophilia is running parallel to that. So that's why my question is, a distraction from what? If you were to ask me what the most pressing issue is that we need to come together, band together as a civilization to combat, it is child sex trafficking. It is the The kidnapping, the rape, the torture, the murder, and the cannibalization of children all across this planet. That, to me, has been and will always be the number one goal. That is the mission, is to expose this and to stop it. So when I see what's happening with Q, while a lot of people are taking it to somewhere else, and they like to focus on the sort of right-wing aspect of it, the Republicans versus the Democrats, there are a lot of people that see Q as this really awesome facilitator of exposure of the pedophilia. So in my mind, Q is not a distraction. Q has given people the instruments, the tools with which to ask these big questions. And sort of it's given people permission to be a little weird too. Like, it used to be weird. Conspiracy theories, you were judged and you were alienated. It's not like that anymore. It's 2018. Like, the game's over. Everybody needs, if you're not a conspiracy theorist now, you're slow. You're out of the game. Like, now you're the weirdo. If you're a normie and you're still sleeping and you're not up on what's really going on, you're the weirdo. And I'm so glad that those tables have turned, because I spent my entire life kind of, alienated and feeling like I was the only one in my community that knew that there was something totally amiss about all of it. And I thought I was the only one that could see through the lie. And when you're on your own for that long, you really start to question your sanity. And it becomes a very dark and sad and scary place. So Q, at the very least, has given people an opportunity to speak, an opportunity to do their own research, to utilize their own platforms on social media with which to share this information. So that's why I say that the original source of QAnon might not even be relevant anymore, because it has become so big, it cannot be held. There's no way to trace or to track all of the research that people are doing as a result of Q. So now it's kind of like arguing and saying that now everybody who has followed Q in any capacity, that anything that they share from then on out is somehow negated because they follow Q. That's incorrect. That's just not right. People are people. You cannot control the human spirit. You cannot control the human will once it has been brought out of its slumber. And I think that that's really what's happening here, is that people are starting to see the light. So you're not going to catch me bashing Q. You're just not. I mean, individual people are going to take information and do with it what they will. Okay. So you can't just shut down the entire movement because some extremists, want to take this and make it a very left versus right issue. The fact of the matter is that the Republican Party has within its ranks plenty of pedophiles, plenty of pedophile apologists. This isn't about getting the Republicans into their place of power and simply running out the Democrats. It's not like that. Of course, the primary focus, some of the central characters that we've honed in on since 2016 have been key members of the DNC. You got your Podesta, you've got your Clinton, you've got Huma, Weiner, you've got all these just absolute trash people. We've been very honed in on them, but don't let this distract you. Don't let that distract you from the fact that the Republican Party is fostering their very own group of pedophiles and pedophile apologists. Okay. And as for Trump, listen, love the guy or hate the guy, I respect and admire somebody that makes it their business to protect the children of this world. I really do. I've also, I've been attacked because people are like, well, President Trump has, he sort of co-signs on these drone strikes or these bombings that go on overseas. And what about Palestinian children? And what about these children? And listen, my answer to that is that we have to start somewhere. We have got to start somewhere. I don't condone the death of any children anywhere ever. And the answer lies in starting somewhere. We have to do something. Okay. So, and that's exactly what I see him doing. Thousands of arrests have taken place. Traffickers, tons of kids have been released. So, I mean, I just see it as a really great sort of segue into an era where exposure is the new norm, where truth is the new norm, and people look back in retrospect and they're like, wow, can you believe that we were just living in the dark for so long? Yeah, I can't believe it either, right? So, all right, see, you guys, I'm really not, oh, Heidi's here. Everybody, channel 27, Heidi Vandenberg, my lovely and talented friend and partner in crime. All right, you guys. Okay. Yeah. So, and it's sad. Angel, that's kind of sad. He says, this is my only outlet. This is my only outlet. I can't talk about this with anyone. That makes me sad. But I really think that that's all going to change, because the more normal this becomes and the more mainstream this all gets, it's going to be a conversation that we're forced to have. Which brings me to my next point. If you guys think that nothing is happening, simply take a look at what mainstream media is peddling in terms of what I'm going to call damage control. Okay, Wired.com just yesterday publishes an article entitled "Crying Pedophile is the Oldest Propaganda Trick in the Book." No, Wired.com, it's not. You're just really sad that your beloved icons, such as Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, are being outed as the predators that they truly are. So while proof of this is certainly being acquired, I know that there are people behind the scenes that do have proof. They do have circumstantial evidence. Perhaps they're waiting to bring it out. Perhaps they're not safe enough to bring it out. I don't know. But what we do know, based on what we understand about Hollywood and the government, is that they are all working together, and they are all, they all cover for each other when it comes to this pedophilia and the abuse and torture of children. Okay, this sort of thing we have plenty of evidence of it, and so we see this kind of damage control. I want to make note also. Sarah Ruth Ashcraft has been very vocal. I talked about her a few days ago. She's been very vocal on Twitter. She has a lot of, sort of allegations against Tom Hanks, which I personally do believe her. We also have Isaac Cappy. I know he's a huge name right now. His videos are all over the place. He did a spot on Alex Jones. He's been talking to a lot of people. These individuals people are trying to discredit them. People are trying to call them liars, call them psyops, this, and that. This is where intuition and discernment really comes into play. Also, these people's histories are totally all there. I mean, you can see Isaac Cappy's body of work. You can see clearly he is who he says he is. Sarah Ruth Ashcraft, she's had to be a little bit more kind of guarded. But if you were to go over to her Twitter and read her accounts, she's been talking about this for a long time. This isn't, she didn't just see an opening and take it. She's been vocal about this for a while. Okay. So don't be dismissive of these people. You cannot sit there and tell me that you want to see this country and this world get better, and then every time a whistleblower or somebody with testimony comes up and tries to speak out, you cannot dismiss them. You can't dismiss people for no good reason and champion for change at the same time. Okay, it's one or the other. So moving forward, we really are going to be faced with a choice as a country first and internationally later, in terms of pedophilia and whether or not we're willing to accept it. So I don't know about all you guys, but for me, the answer is hell no, never. It will never happen on my watch. And I really don't think the American people will allow it. I really, really don't. I think that they're kidding themselves. MSM is totally desperate at this point. Listen to this. Listen to this. You guys are going to love this. I'm so excited. MSN.com. Hold on. MSN.com published an article. Steven Spielberg and Hillary Clinton are to develop a TV series on women's suffrage. So, yeah, you heard that right. Steven Spielberg, who is now being accused of pedophilia, among other atrocious acts, which, I mean, come on, you guys. Do you believe it? I believe it. It's just a matter of time before people come out with this stuff, and their testimony is very important. I mean, think about the power that this man has had in Hollywood. He has been protected by a shroud of secrecy for so many years. But don't think for one second that there are not victims out there that are perhaps finally now feeling empowered enough to speak out, because these walls are starting to crumble, because people are ripping these walls down. We're saying no more. Enough is enough. We're not going to protect these animals anymore. We are going to give people platforms. We are going to put aside our judgment, and we're going to let people speak. We're going to let people testify their truth. God damn it. So yeah, you heard me right. Steven Spielberg and Hillary Clinton are going to collaborate on a TV series about women's suffrage. And my question is, and actually someone brought, because I shared this article on my Facebook page, somebody asked, are they going to include Bill Clinton's victims, his female victims? These people, it's just an absolute joke. And anybody that's still buying into this garbage and, accepting it as, oh, that's good for them. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot and you're totally still sleeping. What else? You guys have heard of NAMBLA, right? The North American Boy Love Association, founded by a David Thorsted. One internet search on this organization and this guy, and you guys may very well just throw up in your mouths. It's so disgusting. This guy is literally out here advocating for man-boy love. And somehow he gets away with it. Somehow he's allowed to do this. I don't know if it's the free speech thing. I don't know. I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to say it. I stick to my guns with freedom of speech. Everybody should be allowed to say what they want to say, because at the very least, what that does is that alerts the rest of us to exactly who we're dealing with. So, okay, thank you, David Thorsted, for exposing yourself as being demonic and filthy and just the worst person ever. So now we all know how to accordingly judge you and sort of cast you out from society. Okay, so moving on, we have midterms coming up in November. Ex-president, he never should have been the president, illegitimate, terrorist, complete traitor to this country and to this country's people, Barack Obama, has just endorsed 81 candidates for the November midterm election. So folks, go ahead, go on the internet and see if you can search for these 81 names of these candidates that Obama has endorsed. And so that will just become a list of people that we need to, not vote for and not endorse. And maybe even we'll see, based on this list, whose loyalties lie with who. Now, definitely keep in mind that sometimes they do this sort of thing to kind of redirect us. So I don't know if they've put so much thought into that sort of thing. They know how many people can't stand Obama and know what a criminal he is, that maybe their strategy here is to release this list and say, oh, he endorsed them, thinking that people will have the idea to avoid those people, when really it's possible that some of these 81 candidates are actually good people, but they may be banking, MSM may be banking on all of the hate around Obama, that people will take those names and automatically just smear them. So I don't know. You're going to have to decide for yourself. I don't know if they've thought that far ahead. I really don't know, but I wanted to bring that up just so, just food for thought there. Okay. I've been accused of being some kind of a right-wing, someone called me a right-wing honeypot. And I was like, that's just so weird. I mean, I'm not registered as a Democrat or a Republican. I don't have any political affiliations whatsoever. I'm just an observer, and I think about things and I research things and I share them with you. I'm not right wing, not even close. My views, some of my views are technically a little bit more conservative, but there are some things that I'm really very liberal on as well. So, it's these labels, man. They're so limiting. They're so limiting. So I really don't want to be on here for too long because I know once I start talking, I could just ramble on for 2 hours. I don't want to do that. So yeah, the Spielberg Clinton TV series. Okay, well, before midterms, I think that they're probably going to plan. And when I say they, I don't even want to use terms like the left is planning this or that, because I think that that's just another means of dividing us, because the fact is that these pedos and the sort of these dregs of society, they exist on all ranks, in all walks of life, all political affiliations for the most part. And so when we say the left, we're really limiting ourselves there, because the pedos, the people that want this sort of thing normalized and, don't want Trump in power, they're all over the map. Okay. So we need to just look at this as everybody who is okay with pedophilia and everybody who is not, because that is ultimately what this is coming down to here. So it doesn't even matter. You could like to have some government, small government, big government, that none of that matters. Your political views don't really matter at this point. And that's why I say that I think that the remedy to this divide is for everybody to come together on the issue of child sex trafficking. Okay, because there's no reasonable argument in defense of it. None. You can't tie it into left wing or right wing. You just can't do it. It's wrong. It will always be wrong. And if you're on the side of normalization or accepting it, you will be cast out from society. You will not win this battle, Sarah Silverman. You will not win this battle, Tom Hanks and Seth Green, who is getting exposed. I mean, I can't tell you how grateful and honored I am to be alive right now. And in the little tiny capacity that I can serve the public with my thoughts and with my insight, I am so excited to witness this crumbling taking place. I mean, Isaac Cappy, everybody, if you haven't checked him out already, go ahead and go to his, he has some videos on Periscope. He's on Twitter. They've been sort of banning him on and off the past few days, but he's fantastic and he's naming names. Okay, the guy has put himself at risk. He'll probably never work in Hollywood again. I don't know. I mean, I hope not, but he's talking about these people that he used to be, kind of friends with, knew them personally. That's a really hard thing to do. And I believe him because I've seen the tweets that these people have sort of buried over the past, few years, 5 years, all the way up to, it's a long time ago, but it doesn't matter. You don't just joke about the rape, torture, and murder of children. It's just not funny. It's just not funny. And these people are obsessed with it. Okay, so it's not even like we can say, oh, one really, really tasteless joke 4 years ago, whatever. Maybe he was just having a bad day and he was feeling extra dark, or maybe even people are abused. That's one excuse that somebody came up with in defense of these people, these Hollywood dregs and comedians and entertainers that get such a kick out of joking about pedophilia. Yeah, someone in their defense actually said, well, maybe this is how they cope with their own abuse. Okay, fine. I understand that people have their coping mechanisms, but the sheer volume of pedophilia jokes made by this group of people in Hollywood is so, it's not borderline anything. It is blatant obsession. They are obsessed with it. And it's a very hard thing for people to understand, because for the most part, I believe that for the most part, people are good. People are simple. People like to have their luxuries, their comforts. They like to have their health and their happiness in their families. And I love that. I love it. As complex as I am, I'm actually a very simple woman. Okay. So most people, I think, really are good. We are, I feel, inherently good. Okay. So this is very hard for people to grasp that this sort of thing has been going on and is so commonplace in Hollywood. They don't want to. They don't want to see it. They don't want to know. You know, Joe Sixpack. The last thing he wants to hear about when he comes home from his 10-hour workday is about how elite interdimensional child molesters run the world. He doesn't want to hear it. It's the last thing he wants to hear. So this is what we're dealing with. We have got to find a way to make this kind of information. We need to make people understand that this does affect them. Oh, yeah, that's not my problem. What can I do about it? There's nothing I can do about it. This is where you're wrong. One person might not really be able to do it. Joe Sixpack in his, in his own little bubble. You're right. You're right, Joe. There's nothing that you can do about it. But if 350 million people were all unified, as I like to call a shield wall, all unified as a force of nature to stick it to these people and to work together to crumble this power structure in a way that this planet has never seen before. Folks, we have never had an opportunity like we have now to destroy these people, absolutely burn their power structures to the ground. We have an opportunity now to do it. We have to take it. The time is ripe. The time is now. It's just, it blows my mind. I feel like the luckiest girl in the world to kind of even get this kind of perspective on things where I do. I mean, I talk to Isaac. I've got to talk to Liz and John Miranda, and it's just so exciting for me to even be remotely anywhere near this because it's something I've been so passionate about for a long time. I was born into a government family. You guys, my parents, well, my father is the actual diplomat. I was raised overseas. I had all kinds of perks and privilege growing up. I didn't get with the program, and I paid severely for it. My dad is still currently employed as a contractor for the U.S. government. So, and this is me opening, like telling you guys point blank, I'm not hiding that. That's not a secret. You know what I mean? This isn't something that I fear coming out or anything like that. I am so passionate about this because I was born into this sort of government structure, okay? And I could see I was on the inside of it. I see how these people work. I see the brainwashing in action. I can actually see the zombification take place where some people are so brainwashed, they're so programmed that they are actually perceiving a reality that is different from reality as it truly exists. So, I mean, this is an amazing time to be alive, and the shadow government is being exposed. Like I said, I don't really care too much anymore about who QAnon is because it's so much bigger than that now. And so, again, in my defense and in the defense of Liz Crokin, this article that was published is an attempt to make us look stupid. It was taken out of context. We discussed the John F. Kennedy Jr. theory as, something that was entertaining and a possibility at best. And at no point was it presented as fact. So I just love to just blow holes through your arguments, you guys. You guys are so desperate. They even took, like I said, they took a clip of that interview. They posted it to their own YouTube channel. There were talks of killing us. Somebody said drone strike authorized. So these people are violent. These people are angry. They're very, very upset over the Q phenomenon. They don't like it. They don't want exposure for whatever reason. So these are things that people are going to have to truly take into consideration. If you are not on the side of the exposure of shadow government, then you are in the way. 100%, you are on the wrong side of history. You don't want to be on the side that didn't do anything. At this point, your complacency and your willingness, your willful ignorance to stay silent on the subject of child sex trafficking, and also the infection, the parasitic infestation of pedophiles in Hollywood, in DC, and in every single community in this country. Your silence is your consent, and you are absolutely culpable for what happens moving forward. There's no excuse. There is absolutely no excuse for people to be in their neutral places. Oh, I don't know, guys. There's not enough proof. There's not enough evidence. Like, you're so stupid and weak and cowardly, and you don't deserve to be part of what happens next. You don't deserve to feel the rapture and the ecstasy of finally seeing these evil pieces of shit exposed for what they truly are. Being neutral in this argument right now is a very dangerous place to be, because one side of the argument is terrified of getting exposed. They are terrified of what is to come next, because we're going to dox these people. All of this, the child porn online, they have it all. As Q would say, we have it all. And this one side of the argument that is they're pedophiles, they're predators, they're criminals, they're dregs of society. They love everybody that's neutral right now, because if you're neutral, you're pretty much still with them. You're silent, you're complacent, you're not doing anything about it. So y'all folks in the middle that are still neutral and cowardly and don't want to say anything, and you'd rather watch primetime TV and make your 7-layer taco dip. Well, whatever. I like 7-layer taco dip, but like, what, you get what I'm saying. All of your distractions, you're in a really dangerous place to be, because everybody over here is going to run you over. You're going to get run into the ground. If you are not with us at this point, you are against us. And when I say us, I mean, I'm not speaking for the Q people. I'm not speaking for Q itself. I'm not speaking for Trump supporters, and I don't speak for anybody but me and my people that are against pedophilia, child sex trafficking, and the shadow government and criminals in high places. We are from all walks of life, all political affiliations, all colors, races, genders, sexual orientations, creeds. All of us, we have one goal in mind. That is the exposure of the shadow government, the ripping out of its tentacles from all four corners of this earth, and setting them on fire and putting them back in the cold, dark earth from whence they came. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sign off here. I thank you guys for tuning in. Very, very appreciated. I would really like to have Dustin Nemos on my channel, Pat Miletich, I'd like to have on my channel. Now I'm just going to start naming names. Isaac Cappy, I would love to have on my channel. You know, people are going to great lengths to kind of, you know, to try to discredit him and, you know, whatever. It's like, use your intuition. How would you feel? How would you look? How do you think your body language and your tone would appear when you're nervous, you're scared, and you're also, it's adrenaline. You're like, oh my God, like, I'm exposing these people. This is really happening. So of course he may appear kind of out of sorts, or, you know, even a little bit nervous and whatnot, even though honestly, he's gotten a lot better. His very first video was a little bit, you know, a little bit disheveled and discombobulated because it was the first time he was coming out with this stuff. But he's had some time now to kind of compose himself and to present this information very articulately. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. Isaac, I'd really love to get you on the show, brother. I think we can have a really great time with this. Oh, one more thing before I go. So folks, this Space Force thing, I gotta tell you. So apparently President Trump is being met with all kinds of resistance in terms of his plans for carrying out the Space Force. All right. So he has ideas, there's things he wants to do, but you know, there's some resistance there. All of this has been documented publicly. It's clear to see that the DoD does not really, like, they're not trying to match him on this. They're kind of trying to delay it. They want to do it their way, whatever. Let me tell you what my thoughts are. So to be very clear, what I'm about to say next is my insight. This is my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if there are all kinds of, you know, other sources that really sort of co-sign on what I'm about to say, but I would love to actually have a show on it in the future where I'm a lot more researched and prepared to provide you guys with some facts on this. But I do believe that the introduction of even the term Space Force is a way to seed within the collective consciousness, within the collective hive mind. See, that people have to understand how linguistics work. Spelling is a form of magic. It's a form of mind control. It's a form of sort of charming people into seeing things a certain way and perceiving things a certain way. Language is a powerful, powerful tool. And when we use a term like Space Force and it's just brought out there in the open, we're like, what? The Space Force? Like, that's so wild. What did he say? Did he just say that? I feel like this was a very strategic sort of drop, this linguistic kind of seed planted in the collective mind, so that moving forward, we're being prepared to tackle an interplanetary level of exposure. Now, allow me to explain. As of right now, most people that are kind of up on the child sex trafficking rings, most people are aware that this is an international problem. Okay, that much is clear. The melanin, all of it, it's billions and billions of dollars. I mean, it's just like the money it's just incredible how much money is that the trafficking operations move past international, and they have in fact been going on an interplanetary level for a very, very long time. Okay, so now this is where we get into like some real woo-woo stuff. I mean, it's kind of like David Icke, reptilian sort of thing. And that comes with its very own stigma. People are either really excited about that because they're interested in it, or they're turned off immediately because those terms just trigger automatically, no, that's a conspiracy, or no, that's ridiculous, or whatever, or no, that's too scary, I don't want to look at it. But really and truly, if we do sort of look at what we know about the controllers of this world, is that they are inhuman. So at the very, very top, the upper echelons of this, do you think it's just regular men and women that are in charge? Absolutely not. They are malevolent ETs, okay, also known as demons. So that's another thing that we're going to, something else that's going to come out is that the reptilian agenda is also the demonic agenda. So the people at the very top of this are not people like you and me. They're not human. They're not capable of the sort of that empathic nature that we as regular human beings have. So once we see how disgusting and dark and terrifying it really is, we are then going to see that this is not limited to earthbound operations. I believe that this is interplanetary. And I also believe that in space, the space wars, as they were quoted, the war in space, the battle in space. I believe that there is an interplanetary human trafficking or slave trade operations that take place in outer space. And I know that this is a huge mind F for people. I know that's really hard to comprehend. But folks, buckle your seatbelts, because this is not going to get easier for you. This is not, in terms of absorbing the information as it comes out, I think that the people have been really, like the truthers and the independent researchers, they've been really nice to you guys. They've done it slowly. They've done it gradually. They've done it in a way that's palatable to people, to the average person, because otherwise, if we were just inundated with facts and truth, we couldn't handle it. We would spontaneously combust, and it would just all be for nothing, because everybody would just be so driven to insanity. Everybody would just be, Baker acted and sort of confined and institutionalized, because it really is too much. if you're not mentally, spiritually, and emotionally and physically prepared to handle the truth, it can be, and even if you are prepared on all those levels, it's still a very shocking and uncomfortable thing. But I do think that that's where we're moving next, is we are going to see that the child sex trafficking and the human trafficking trade in general is not international only. I believe that it is interplanetary. And I think if President Trump is as about it as he says he is, and his track record this past year with the arrests and his executive orders, focusing on human trafficking, if all of that's legitimate, then that's where we're going next. All right, folks. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really hope you guys hang in there and stay tough. Don't dismiss anything. Moving forward, use your discernment, put those goggles on. Just because somebody sounds crazy doesn't mean that they are. Sometimes it means they're crazy, but not all the time. Okay, so be good to each other, be nice to each other. This is a time to unify. This is the time to work together, to fight together as one. And I'm very excited. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Shield wall. Shield wall.